So there's a misconception that if you're single, you are incomplete, perhaps damaged, salvaged, and you won't be happy until you find your one. And that is not true. That is bullshit. It is a message that has been fed to us by media and advertising. The truth is, when you're single, you have the richest soil for growth. That's why I created this podcast. And unlike other podcasts, this one is host-driven, not guest-driven. That means I will be rotating health and wellness experts 3 times a week to give you the giant box of wellness crayons, not just the primary colors, so you can start building a meaningful life. It's time to give singlehood a cape.
Hey, cultural tatang nasmats foliet. So I have 5 children. I have 5 little ones, 15, 13. The twins are 5 years old, and baby girl will be 3 in March. Initially, I had my 2 boys, and I ended up in this relationship that was sort of, this man had come into my life, and I was like, no, I'm not looking for anybody. I'm not interested. I knew that I was hurting pretty badly. I had resigned from a job that I loved. I had been struggling with Lyme disease for years, and I knew that that was connected to trauma, the different things that I was navigating, that there was a lot of unresolved trauma growing up on the reservation, and experiencing life as I knew it. I had things to unlearn, and I had spaces and places to heal. But I ended up listening to these words, and it was proposed as this beautiful thing that I thought, wow, this would be really cool. Like a relationship, share my world with someone from our world, like as a Native woman, seems like a great father. He had 2 kids of his own. I had 2 of mine. Everything that was proposed just was pretty enticing, sounded great. It was one of those things that, was maybe too good to be true. And that crossed my mind. They say when it's too good to be true, it probably is. And there were several mantras that I had followed throughout my life, things that stuck with me that popped up. And I ignored them, and I listened to his words. And that got me into a pretty dark space, a pretty interesting place where I was pretty low, but my love for my children won. And I made it my mission to not have that be the life for them. And it was very hard. I had twins for my ex, and then I ended up pregnant with our little one, and it was something that I was not trying to do. We did not survive the first pregnancy. Why would we bring another? I mean, this is crazy. Children deserve to be loved. I feel all this hurt. I'm not trying to bring people into a hurt world as a hurt person, and so I made it my mission to get out before my baby was born, and I did that. I did. Pretty much army crawled out of there. Not really. I mean, I was moving with my 4 children, 9 months pregnant. I got out 2 weeks before COVID hit, 2 weeks before she was delivered, before I birthed her on top of the mountain. And COVID had just hit. It was March 15th, 2020. And I, did what I could for my children. I was working full-time from home, teaching 4 kids from home, distance learning in a rural area with no service, with minimal access to service and resources, and an infant. And after 10 months, I relocated to a new state, and I'm now living in a big city with 5 children. And there's often times like today where I'm sitting here like, wow, I would never imagine that I would have been a single mother of 5 children. I'm doing it, and I think it's something that I definitely can confidently say, I'm single on purpose. I am on my healing journey. I know healing is a lifetime thing, but there's so much that was shown to me in that darkness, things that had popped up before that I just didn't know how to see. And now I can feel things that are ready to be healed, and I'm actively participating in that. And I hope to be creating decent human beings who are also able to understand that we're in a world where we can love despite the hate, where we can be light within the darkness, and where we know that we are deserving of love and good things. And hopefully we can all work towards that. And I look forward to someday, meeting the man of my dreams, and us being accepted by him, and him being accepted by us and me. And yeah, that's exciting. I'm looking forward to the future, and that's something that I never felt in those years of darkness. I am looking forward to the future. I have overcome so much, and I am learning and healing and unlearning every single day, all while raising 5 children. This is crazy, but I am single on purpose, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Så det.
What I have learned is to love me so much that it's kind of difficult to have the tolerance or patience for another person in my life who's not the right fit. But I've also learned that having platonic male friendships can be just as gratifying as romantic relationships, and that my friendships, my family relationships, even casual acquaintanceships enhance my sense of self-satisfaction, and I feel whole at this time in my life. At 54, I'm still open to romantic love and a lifelong companion, but in the meantime, I'm loving just learning and dating me, and I'm a fantastic freaking person. Hey, thanks for listening.
My takeaway in singlehood, what I have learned, that I embrace my solitude. I actually have fallen in love with myself, and taking myself on the dates that I desire, fine dining, movie alone, getting dressed up, and putting on like nice makeup. What I have learned through singlehood is that what I truly desire is within myself, and whoever I meet is just a cherry on top. So I wish for the best for everybody to reach to that bliss of enjoying your own company.
Hey, good morning. My name's Elizabeth. I'm on the East Coast, and the Single on Purpose book was such an eye-opener for me. I'm 50, been divorced for almost 13 years, dated on and off. And I notice when I come into a relationship, I come with my whole self, and I feel confident and like I have much to give. But then I find myself diving into the relationship and overcompensating for something, and I'm trying to figure out what that is, meaning that I give up parts of myself to be in the relationship, thinking that's what love is. If I show them that I love them through the lens of not doing the things that I love anymore, and kind of almost being a chameleon and taking on what they love to do, and not honoring myself in the relationship. And I think that comes from my history of childhood trauma, and thinking love is about giving up your whole self. And as I was listening to the podcast, this is, kind of an aha moment, and thinking, wow, like my next relationship, when that happens, that I need to be my true self and still honor the things that are important to me. Thanks for listening. Thanks for putting this on your podcast. You're doing amazing work. I appreciate it. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Diaz. I'm so excited to share with you guys the singlehood story, the true ups and downs of what it really feels like to go on this solo journey of self-love and self-discovery. I'm 27 years old, and personally, I have always been the gal that was in a long-term serious relationship. I'm sure so many of you guys are able to relate to that. And with that being said, my singlehood journey began with me being in a relationship. And I decided to be with someone when I told myself I wanted to be single. And I told him that from the beginning, that I really wanted to go on my journey of being alone for once, because I just got out of a relationship with a narcissist. I was dealing with PTSD. And for those of you guys that don't know, it's a fucking hell of a mental battle. But I'm in the recovery stages, and there's hope for those of you that are going through that. Anxiety, panic disorder, all of it, depression. You got this. You're killing it. And eventually I ended up leaving him, parting ways, and truly keeping my promise of being single. And through that journey, I discovered that I was holding myself back in ways because I would put my time into the relationship rather than in myself. And I had a lot of time to reflect on that, being alone. I became the third wheel in a lot of situations, and I learned how to enjoy my own company, which was very interesting and very fulfilling whenever you get to that place. I discovered that I always felt my voice wasn't heard in a relationship, and that I had to learn that in my friendships also, to open up about my insecurities and really dive deep, because the people that really care about you, they're open to listening, and they want to know, and they want to help you grow and be a better person. So my circle of friends grew smaller, but they are so strong. They uplifted me in so many ways. At the time of this, my mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And yeah, it sounds like I went through hell and back, and I really did. It was one of the hardest times of my life. But, we are all resilient. As human beings, we are made to keep fighting. And as hard as it was battling through all of that, I decided to keep on pursuing this self-love journey. And one thing that panic attacks taught me was I needed to take a lot of walks. And now I take mindful walks. I'll take walks in the morning. I go to the gym, not because I want something shallow, but because it's good for my mental health. And it makes me check in with my body. Doing yoga made me feel very present. And it was able to show me where I was really struggling with trauma. And it really helped me release it also. And it's very beautiful to see where things are stored. And then when you reflect and you have that little aha moment, and you're like, wow, it was from this. This is why I'm feeling this way. All these years, I had no idea why I would do this. And now I know. And an example of that is, personally, I always had the issue of getting into a relationship, and when things went south, I would end up thinking about an ex. I'm always hung up on an ex, or I used to be. Always hung up on an ex, and I couldn't be present in the relationship. So, if anything, my singlehood has taught me how to be a better partner. And one day I had the aha moment of, well, you're missing the communication in this relationship, and you missed it from the old partner that gave you that. And me going back to the old partner and still feeling the lack of love, I found out, no, this is something I need to focus on with this person. And it's not them. There's nothing wrong with the person in front of me. There's something going on internally that little Ashley wasn't heard from my narcissistic mother. And I know this is a lot to unload in these few minutes I'm sharing. But it's true, and it's raw, and it's real. I didn't feel heard growing up because I was in an abusive household as well. But I found within that my voice wasn't being heard, and I really needed to feel heard in a relationship. And now moving forward, I know that I need to feel heard with everyone, and I started working on my own book. And I have been working on this book for years, but I wanted to stop it, but I remembered, no, I need to let my voice be heard. Her voice really wanted to be heard. And if it can help one person, hell, I'm down to do it. So I decided to take a chance and I started writing. And boy, did it feel good. So whatever you're passionate about, whatever that passion is, and you know what it is inside, don't tell me you don't have a passion. We all know what it is. We're just too scared to voice it. We're too scared to do it. But what's it gonna do? Like, hell, you'll be scared as hell pushing those boundaries, but it's worth it at the end. It really is. And for me, my specialty is poetry. Hell, I did an open mic night. I went up there. I cried at the end, but I got an applause, and that meant the world to me. The audience being so supportive of me, people telling me, you need to keep doing this. You're so good. Your words are so powerful. That meant so much. So just giving it a little bit of positivity goes so far in today's society where we're all on our phones. These pieces of humanity, people, loving people, they're just so beautiful. And I'm so grateful for it. So the point is, take your chances in your singlehood. It's not as scary as you think. It's so beautiful. And don't be afraid to talk with yourself. It's quite enlightening. And hell, speak even if your voice shakes. Like, I know I can feel mine shaking right now because of so many emotions, because I'm still going through the singlehood right now. But it'll be worth it. You might surprise yourself and find that you do have the answers that you're looking for. And knowing that you're strong enough to go after those dreams you want, do those little things during the day that make you feel so happy. For me, it's writing, it's painting, it's watching a romantic comedy, things that I kind of saved to do with a partner. I did it by myself, and it was beautiful, a really beautiful thing, knowing that you can still feel happy and whole alone. And you're not really alone because you have yourself. And you've been with yourself since you were born. You have been there for yourself through it all. So if anyone could be called a best friend or a true love, it's yourself. Because heck, we stood by ourselves, right? But I hope this helped someone out there. And just lead with love. Thank you. Thanks for listening, you guys.
So I wanted to share my story because, for one, the books that you have written have helped me a lot. So it kind of starts with my parents, who were very religious, very set in their ways, and had an arranged marriage. So they kind of taught me that as a woman with their religion, my position was to grow up and get married and be the stay-at-home mom. And so I met somebody at 17 thinking I knew everything. I married them the next year with no tools at all to communicate in healthy ways. And I found myself at age 22 as a mom with 2 kids who had a very dysfunctional relationship with a narcissist, someone who was lying to me and cheating, and I didn't know what to do. I stayed in the relationship till I was 24 when I finally decided to get a divorce and start my own life over. So I went back to school and am currently in school to be a therapist. But over the last couple years of my journey, I read your first book, Single on Purpose, right after a kind of terrible breakup where I had gotten ghosted and lied to again, kind of unconsciously, I was still going for the same type of guys because I had not done the work to heal and to love myself. At the same time, I read the Attached book that talks about attachment styles and kind of discovered that I have anxious attachment style, but I didn't really revisit that at the time. I was more focused on why the other person had treated me that way and what I could learn about them through that book. So anyway, fast forward, one more 6-month relationship where I had no tools and I selected the same kind of narcissist sort of guy that didn't ever want to take responsibility, and I would shut up and not communicate because the things that he was doing were hurting me and he didn't listen. And so I tried to stay in that, and I finally got the courage to leave. So over the last year, it's been pretty cool because I've been focused on myself and took several months off of dating to just grow. And when I did start dating again and got on the dating apps and stuff, I would go out on dates with guys and I would focus on how I felt afterwards. And then I would focus on what I could learn about myself from that guy. And this has been my current practice for the last few months. And I've really been unpacking a lot of my own insecurities and why certain things make me feel a certain way, and realizing that a lot of my insecurities were not created from hurtful things that people said to me in relationships, but they were already there. Recently, it's finally made sense to me how people would always say that you attract what you are, or you attract unhealthy types of people, because for me it makes sense that I was attracting those people, or I was accepting those people in my life because I didn't believe that I could do better. I didn't believe that I was worth that much. And so once I was able to look at some of those parts of me that had not healed, I have since been able to have a lot more healthy interactions, and that goes for friendships. I'm able to set boundaries with people that I was never comfortable setting before. And in doing so, I have higher quality relationships in my life. I recently read your and Vanessa's latest book, and between that and some of my classes right now, I am really learning to look back at how my parents' patterns really shaped me. And the thing that I'm seeing is that my parents didn't really have boundaries, and they kind of taught me that in a relationship, in a family, being completely honest with one another equals having no boundaries, which therefore means not respecting the other person or the other members of a family. And so having to relearn that has changed a lot of things and a lot of my outlook on life.
Hey, so my name is Katie and I live in London. I broke up with my boyfriend of 2.5 years about a year ago when I went through another mental health crisis and found myself becoming too dependent on my partner. I was really in a dark place and I couldn't see when the tables would be able to turn and I'd be in a place where I could support him again. And I felt like I was being absolutely rubbish at everything. And so I thought taking out being a bad girlfriend from the equation would give me some peace. But we were also at a crossroads. We'd spent every weekend together during COVID, but hadn't made the move to move in because of different locations across London. And he continued to work in Southeast London when I lived with my children North London in the weeks, and they went to their dads at weekends. But we got, 2.5 years in, thinking about getting serious. I ideally would have liked to have a child. I was going further and further away from that idea. And I also realised that we both suffered mental health and we both accommodated each other's mental health, but it got to a crux where my own trauma brought about how he hadn't dealt with his trauma. And so I decided it was time to make a break, and I completely cut contact with him, not to be harsh, but so that we could heal without any complexity or any difficulty about a grey area of a friendship after what was really, at the time, a very loving relationship and supportive for the time that we were together. But I realised also that I had just stumbled from one relationship to another, and realised that I was both anxiously attached to everyone I'd been with and had that tendency to be codependent and feel needed all the time and have someone that I could rely on as well. So I committed to myself to stay single. I downloaded Audible and listened to The Angry Therapist. Thank you. Your I can't remember what it's called, but the one about being single. And it really helped me. I really resonated with your story and parts of it. But I have really, really enjoyed over this last year getting to know myself and being comfortable with myself and enjoying my own time and protecting that. And I've gone through like that breakup thing of not being able to listen to love songs without feeling like I'll never feel that way again, and I used to feel like that. And then just one day realising I was listening to those songs again and just being happy for those who were in that situation. To then just not even having dating on my radar. When I first was out of the relationship, I actually was listening to a lot of your TikToks, your short videos, and other influencers on relationships as well. I can't think of their names right now, but it just really helped me to process kind of the mistakes I'd made, how my priorities weren't right, how I wasn't being somebody that I would like to date, and how also I became more consumed with the relationship. In so much so that I didn't have interests that were just for me, and I wasn't the person that people fell in love with when they fell for me, because I just became all about the relationship. And so I've just spent this year reconnecting to the things that I enjoy, building myself up, volunteering, and it's got me this week a paid role working within mental health and doing peer support work. That really, really resonates with who I am, with my story. I haven't had to hide my story to employers. I'm actually using my lived experience and focusing on my career and my children and my house, and just having a peace that love will find me when it's meant to, and when life is settled for me and I know how someone can fit in. Obviously I will compromise as well, and some of the issue with my ex-boyfriend was that I didn't feel he was compromising enough for me as a single parent and sacrificing enough. And I realised that it was his possibly undiagnosed PTSD and trauma that was getting in the way of how much he could compromise and give. And there were parts of him as well that he would not let me into. And I had laid my soul bare through my crisis. I had hit a complete rock bottom and been completely open with him, and I didn't feel that he was giving me that too. So I became very aware of trauma bonds, and so many red flags. I'd been in a controlling, coercive, abusive relationship previously, and realised that my dating after that was just a completely unhealthy coping mechanism for me to distract myself and just constantly have somebody. Like, I became addicted to attention, and I realised, like, if I want attention from men, I can go on the internet, I can get that straight away. Even if I want sex from men, I could go and I could find that really easily, but that is not fulfilling, and it ultimately led me to have lower self-esteem. Whereas now I've found a life where I'm building up my self-esteem, I'm building up myself, I'm reading books that I just enjoy for fun that I didn't have the brain power for before because I was just chasing other people. So yeah, that's my singlehood story, and I'd be quite happy if it is for years to come. My children are 10 years old and 8 years old, and I share care with my ex, and we're very amicable with that. But I have to put them first, and find somebody who will kind of fit in with my antisocial hours of both work and caring for my children. And I'm happy to do that, over a longer period of time, if it's going to last forever. So yeah, that's my story. I hope you enjoy hearing it and many others. And I'd be interested to see what you're going to do with these stories. So I hope that's been helpful and succinct enough. I have a tendency to waffle. So I'll end this now. So thank you to you and your wife for your content. I've read one of your books. I'm interested to read more. And thank you for sharing some of your journey and your stories with me and others, because it's really helped me in finding myself too.
Hi, John. I'm a very long-time listener and first time interacting, really. But I'll talk about my singlehood journey. I've been single on purpose now for a couple of years, trying to just make sure that I'm the best version of myself before I really enter into another relationship. I think reading your book, just picking it up randomly, I don't remember why, but I really like the title of being purposeful. I purposely single. I had a child quite young, high school girlfriend situation after high school. Anyway, I ended up becoming a single dad when she was a toddler, and mom just didn't want to be around. And I had a series of longer term relationships, but never really experienced the dating culture and the dating pool when I was younger. Had long-term girlfriends, and had a child pretty young, and then became single father, and then that she left, and I was single dad with a little toddler. And I look back now and realize that I didn't have the same value in myself that I do now. I was in my 20s and with a little girl, and thinking who would want to date a guy, working in construction and 20-something years old, hauling around little baby and traveling and stuff too. My work involved travel too, so I was gone a lot of the weeks. But I realized I never really had an example of what a good relationship looked like. I look back now and see that my mom and dad never had a successful relationship. Maybe before we were born, they were married for a long time. And I hear stories, they would tell me stories about, they packed up and traveled, moved to the West Coast, and that was great. And I'm thankful that they moved out here. But my memory of them from the time that I could even remember is screaming and yelling and divorce and just not nice to each other, not showing love to each other. And it probably made me pretty hard to get attached to anybody. So I know now that looking back that that's a issue that I had. And anyway, I didn't have a really good example. And I did meet somebody. I got married. We were together for a while. We were together almost 10 years. And I needed to change to not travel. I needed to stop being gone, watching my daughter grow up. I wanted to come home and sleep in my own bed and catch my daughter's last half of her childhood living home, be there for her. And I made a career change when she was about 10. And I know that being home more constantly than out being traveling caused the marriage that I was in to actually have to work versus being home only on the weekends. being home put me I learned a lot more about what was going on while I wasn't there. But it was just bad. It was not good, and it took a long time to unwind. And so we unwound that marriage, and it was really painful. And my daughter, unfortunately, had a front row seat to the same shit show that I did when I was a kid. And I never meant to put her through that, and I want to have her have a better childhood, and that means Dad being okay. So after the marriage, I did find somebody that was fucking wonderful, and she did teach me a lot about what love is. It took a little while. It was completely random. We weren't looking for each other. We happened to both be divorcing our spouses. We were both smack in the middle of a divorce. And so there's a lot of things to figure out there. But the big takeaway I learned in your book was to honor that relationship and to honor the things that were great about it, about like just teaching me so much more about what love is and what it's like to have an equal love where one person isn't set on a pedestal and the other person is below them. And that's what I was used to in a marriage. So we had a big, we both ended up divorcing within 2 weeks of each other, and realizing that it was more her decision than mine to work on herself, and and she turned me around to work on myself and make sure that I'm there for my daughter for her last few years living together in the house. So I made a point the last 3-4 years ago to make sure that I could figure out how to be the best dad that I could be and not put another woman in front of my daughter. So that I remember going after post-divorce and after breakup, and even before that, I had a lot of anger that I didn't know how to deal with. What my trigger to get help was, I guess, was that sometimes I'd be at work and there was a couple instances where I just broke down and I just started bawling and I didn't know what the hell was going on. I mean, I was sad, I was angry, my marriage was falling apart. I found somebody that I loved. She left. I'm here raising this teenage girl that's also very angry and pissed that she's lost 2 moms now, and I'm the only one here that's in front of her, so she's taking her anger out on me. And it just created a situation where I have to be single. I have to not try to put anybody else in front of her, not try to get into any kind of relationship. Well, I know that I felt like I was pretty fucked up. I felt like I was pretty, my own self-worth wasn't there. But I can say some of the greatest things in the book were learning, the 4 pillars of your life and working on those and making sure that you're satisfied in all 4 aspects there. It's probably going to be one of my first real significant tattoos that I'll put on my body and cover up some stupid teenage ones. But it's been really, really great process being single. I've now been able to say no to more and more, and I can see a lot more issues that aren't gonna, a lot more incompatibility and a lot more times when, I know that superficial feeling of just a sexual attraction, and that would be great, but also, the shit show that comes afterwards when you have to actually work through some things. And this is the first time in my life that I've purposely been single since being a teenager. I've realized it was in survival mode almost all of my life and until now. And now I could be more purposeful and take my time and really get my head right and get myself right and not not be out there looking for somebody because I feel like I'm that stigma that society puts on you for being single. Is I go on friends groups and you have all the couples around and you're the single guy. So it's been quite fun. Now I've learned to enjoy it and embrace it. I started traveling randomly one weekend per month when Corona started coming out of Corona, and we could book plane tickets. And I would take my daughter on a lot of trips, and then I went on a lot of trips by myself and started to go on myself. And I just went to Europe for a month on my own, and I happened to ruin my phone halfway through, and it was the best thing ever. I went to no communication, no technology, and traveling through multiple countries and carrying a map and asking strangers for directions. And it's just been really, really good. And I finally feel like my daughter has moved to college and I may be ready to start dating again. I don't know, but I don't want to be out there looking for it, because I find that the greatest love that you're going to run into is going to be completely on accident. It's going to be a collision. It is going to be something that maybe builds, that you sense that spark right away, but maybe it's not the same bonfire that it was attracted to earlier. And maybe it's just a small spark. But anyway, I just wanted to do this little voice note and tell you I'm really, really thankful for the book. It's sitting in front of me now. It's still a regular that I go back to. And I just randomly pick it up sometimes and read a couple of pages in the morning and realize that, there's a lot of really good stuff in there. And I've given it away. I've given it away to a lot of friends that have gone through breakups or different points in their lives. And, I'll actually probably give it, if I start dating anybody, I'll actually probably give it to them and see how they take that. Anyway, thank you. And I just wanted to let you know that your work is great, and I'm really appreciative of it. Thank you.
My long-term relationship ended in 2019 to my husband, who I had been married for 4 years, and together 9, maybe 8. So we had been together for a decade and a bit, a long time. And so I've been not married for about 3.5 years, and it's been the most life-altering, intense time of my life. And I often get asked the question, do you ever regret ending the relationship? And I don't know the answer really to that question. I think adamantly I would have said no, never. I regret. But I have moments where, did I work hard enough? Could I have been a better wife? Maybe I could have articulated myself more, and maybe, we would have landed more on the same page. But when I feel regret, I often will question, my life path. Now, though, I do believe it ended, and now my path is different. And I do believe no matter what path you choose in life, the universe will set us back onto another path that is meant for us. So there will always be what ifs, but I do know that where I am today which is not in a relationship. Well, I guess seeing where a relationship could go with someone, and I've had a couple other 1-year relationships since, and each one has taught me more of who I am. Both the good and the uncomfortable parts of myself. So I'm happy, or I'm trying to be happy in each stage of the journey. And each stage teaches you something if you allow yourself to see it. I think relationship is one of the hardest things to navigate, especially when we want to do it in a healthy, conscious way. And so now I am focusing on being the most authentic, real self, and connecting all of the parts of myself and my brain and my body and my soul. I want to connect them. And I feel doing that work will only bring a relationship that is in line with my true self, as long as I'm on the path at being truly connected and aware and curious about myself. And so no matter what my relationships look like in the future, I know that I have those things that I will always be pushing for, which is the deep connection with my soul. And so if I find comfort knowing that no matter what happens, that is always the end goal. But I do know that being in relationship is something that fulfills me. So I don't believe that I will want to be single forever. I do know I want a partner for life. I do have the desire to have a commitment with another human and do life with them and to grow old with them, whatever that looks like. I do have that desire, and I never thought that after my separation that I would want that ever again, but I actually do. But in the meantime, I'm just making sure that I'm my priority, and hopefully one day find a person that we match each other and we push each other and make each other laugh and help ourselves both be the best version of ourselves.
I hope that episode was helpful. Hey, listen, if you want to share your singlehood journey, if you've gone somewhere and come back, if you have revelations and wisdom, please share your story. It's going to help other people. Nothing makes us feel more connected than hearing other people's stories. So just send me the audio of your story, and you could just record it directly from your phone and email it to theangrytherapist@gmail.com. Also, if you want our Single on Purpose newsletter, go to singleonpurpose.life. That's singleonpurpose.life. You will get tools and articles and other people's stories, and also Zoom links to private gathers. So if you want to join our community, go to singleonpurpose.life. Thank you for listening. Be well. We hope you tell a friend. Hey, before you go, I want to invite you to the Single on Purpose private community online. It's off of social media. No ads, no algorithms. We got forums, we got live groups, we got webinars, and we have social hangs. We also have offline in-person hangs happening soon. So check us out. Go to singleonpurpose.life. That's singleonpurpose.life, and I will see you inside.